and I replaced all the hooks on my jerkbaits. Like I'd buy a bunch of, any lure, like, the Rip Stop or the Husky Jerk, and I would just take the hooks off, put brand new, really good sharp hooks on. For me, it's a confidence thing, but I know it does help me catch more fish, like I said with that example. But you will be surprised how much better your hookup thing, what is it, the hookup ratio becomes once you put on legitimate hooks. But anyway,
well, this podcast is soon becoming a jerkbait podcast. So.
Yes, so we're gonna move on. So now it's my turn. So my lure that I did really good with last year was a swim jig. And I think a lot of people use swim jigs, but I feel like swim jigs are so underrated in Ontario. Like you hear a lot of guys like on the Bassmaster guys in Florida and all these places, and they're fishing swim jigs. And in Ontario, it's like, yeah, guys use them, but not often. Like I fished with a few guys, and I've never seen any of them throw a swim jig. One of my favorite swim jigs that we've been using for a while, the Perfect Jig swim jig. It's got a good hook on it. The weed guard's just perfect. It's not too stiff. It's not too soft. And then I like rigging them on a 3.5-inch paddle tail. I like a paddle tail on it. A lot of guys will put craw baits on it and stuff. Like for me, a swim bait is all about subtlety, being subtle. So like if I go to a lake, you got two, like if you're fishing a bait like a swim jig or a chatterbait, when do you use which? They're basically the same thing, just one has a blade on it. If it's got a little bit of chop on the water, I'm throwing a chatterbait 100% because it's, the water's more turbulent, there's more noise. I need a little bit of extra action to attract the fish. But if it's slick calm, I'm not chucking a chatterbait. I'm chucking a swim jig, and it works.
Use the stealth chatterbait, or just get one without a blade.
I have a stealth chatterbait. Meh. But so the swim jig, it's very finesse. And like I went fishing one day, right after bass opener, I was on Pigeon Lake, and it was slick. Like it was slick calm all day. I was like, come on. It was bluebird scotty, and I was just like, what am I gonna do? So I tied on a swim jig, and Perfect Jig. He has this color called Brown Pumpkin, and it literally looks like very rock bassy, almost like sunfishy, but more rock bassy. I don't know. I tied it on. It looked good.
I need to pick one of his up at the show next.
Oh, they're good. Good hook too. But I put a 3.5-inch trailer on it. Limestone Lures Little Ripper, or the Ripper, the regular 3.5-inch size. Simple as ever. Swim jig with a paddle tail, chuck it out, let it sink. I'm fishing like deeper weed edges in like 8 to 12 feet of water. Let it sink to the bottom. On literally the first or second cast, my bait didn't even hit the bottom. Just like it was sinking, and all of a sudden it was just like, what? So I just reeled in, set the hook, boom, 4-pound largemouth. I was like, woo! And after that, I fished it all day. It's a great bait, and they come through anything. You can chuck them like literally through anything up to lily pads.
I think I've got one or two, but I want to get a couple more next year. I want to put it more in my rotation after seeing your success with it.
And they're so versatile. Like I didn't realize how thick of cover you could actually throw a swim jig into. Yeah. Like I was fishing them, around, docks and like, thin milfoil and stuff like that, but you can chuck them through pretty thick and just keep winding them through. And they don't just work for largemouth, smallmouth. Caught a lot of northern pike on swim jigs. Get a white swim jig, put on a bigger saw, put a bigger paddle tail, like a 4 or 4.5 inch, something that has a lot of kick. One swim bait I really like for that is the Storm Largo Shad. It's made of like a thicker, more dense plastic, so when it's paddle kicks, the whole body of the swim jig is just moving like a fish swimming. Pike love it. I also I got bit off last year by
still,
which
is our average only, but we're average Ontario anglers. What do you expect?
Average Kawartha size fish.
But to have that, like they were actually producing, like having that finesse approach, like works. And then, again, that's more my forte. But I loved fishing finesse topwaters. I love it.
And we're gonna do a lot more of that this year. Yeah, so I don't have a BFS combo, but maybe down the road. But it's pretty much similar to using like an ultralight spinning rod, maybe like a light action.
Yeah,
like there are advantages to using a bait caster over
true
spinning.
BFS is essentially like an ultralight bait caster. It's insane.
And you're casting baits that are like a 1/16 of an ounce.
Yeah. But right now, last year, and it's going to stay that way for next year, is that Cast King Zephyr. I'm going to load it up probably with 20-pound braid because it's got way too much length of line on it. With 10-pound, it holded way too much braid.
Like a whole spool of line.
Oh, it's nuts. So I'm going to go 20-pound braid. I don't need that much length on it. But I have it right now on an old Babazumi crankbait rod.
Yeah, I bought that.
Which he regrets giving me, and I'm not.
I don't regret it. I bought that when I was like 14 years old.
I love that
Shimano Babazumi signature rod. I'm 6 graphite, lifetime warranty. It's like $60.
Or the the really weedy areas of Pigeon or Dalrymple, stuff like that. And these lakes have such like a thick scum that as soon as you put even like a finesse jig on, or like you put it a Senko with like a weighted wacky rig,
It disappears.
that will disappear in the bottom. Like,
Yeah. I'm not
no one's
saying
gonna-
fish can't find it, but it makes it more difficult. So
Yeah.
that was one bait I did really well with. And yeah, I was using like 10-pound leaders, and I didn't break off a single fish. I actually had a really nice smallie pull me into the, like I was fishing this rockweed transition, and this fish grabbed my bait, and I saw my line because I use like high vis line, like yellow line, and my line just, it shot to the side right into the weeds. Like the fish just went out, grabbed it, and swam back into the weeds. And I pulled on this fish, and it was like, it wasn't huge, but it was like a 3.5 pounder. And the thing, I couldn't get it out. I was like, I was just trying to pull him out, and finally he came out. I was like so happy because, you know, it was a decent fish, but I was also showing off to the guy I was fishing with because he wasn't catching anything. It wasn't Andrew, it was someone else. But anyway, that's a good technique.
he
too.
doesn't have to try to show off to me. He always outfishes me.
Not always. All right, so we're gonna go quickly because we have about 3 minutes until we get to our Q&A.
Yeah.
What are some baits that you're excited to use this spring, summer, and fall? And it makes it sound like a lot of these baits were bass oriented. We did do a lot of bass fishing last year, but the jerk bait, the swim bait, that was very multi-species for me anyway.
Yeah.
Pike, muskie, other things. But what are you excited for this year?
For this year, I really want to. The Mini Max chatterbait is something I didn't have last year. Like I did really well in the big blade, so I'm looking forward to doing that. I only have one. I want to get another one. I know it's back to chatterbaits, but the Mini Max, I had one last year, and I loved the size profile of that for smallmouth.
It's perfect.
It was amazing. And I want to get a few different sizes because I want to be able to fish them deeper.
We should think about and be like, I could work on this because like these are things that'll help you catch more fish ideally. But for me, it was like, I need to slow down. And one lure that, again, I hate finesse, but like snap jigs, like it is a more aggressive finesse technique. It's definitely not something slow. So that's kind of more my speed. Like it's finesse, but it's also kind of fast. So like you got to find what works for you. So that's one lure I'm looking forward to using for walleye. It'll obviously kill bass too.
Yeah.
Not
I know we
kill them,
also, one
it'll
technique
catch
we
them.
want to really try next year is ripping jigs, hair jigs.
Yeah, hair jigs. We
'Cause
did
that's-
that last year. It's pretty
yeah,
cool.
you did a little bit. I tried, but we didn't really like give like a full effort.
No.
So we want to go out
Yeah.
this year.
Unfortunately, the boat wasn't ready for walleye
Yeah.
opener or
Yeah.
like any time near there, but ripping hair for walleye is a classic in Ontario. And, I bought a whole bunch of big
Yeah,
jims,
big gyms, yeah.
bucktail jigs at Gagnons, and I'm ready to go. I'm just waiting. Open water season
Ah,
is so
so
close.
close.
Anyway, that was our main topic. I hope you found that interesting. Definitely a lot of lures to try that will work. Some weird gimmicky ones, but a lot of like just classics that maybe, you haven't fished. Like, hey, I can almost guarantee some of you that are listening to this right now have never fished a swim jig. Pick one up, tie it on, buy a local one, tie it on, and go catch some fish. So now I'm going to make a little jingle one of these days, but Q&A with AOA. And we're going to actually announce the winner for last podcast. All right, so let's count down to 7, and 7 is Paul E83. Paul E83, and his question was our favorite way to catch largemouth bass. And remember what we said?
Frogs.
Okay, so Paul E83, we're going to send you a DM, and you just won yourself a Jackal Re-Range jerkbait. So congratulations.
They get really excited when they go to the locks about the lift locks. There's one in Peterborough area, I believe.
Yep.
So that there's literally two giant pails of water, and they'll like lift the boat straight up, and you carry on this waterway. Like it's crazy how they built this.
Looking at it is cool.
So that makes sense why there's so many different. There's overland locks where you're on like a little rail car that goes over on some of them. So it makes sense that it's built over the course of over 100 years. Technology changed so much in that time as to like what's the best way to transport a ship over these certain areas between lakes. So it's kind of cool. That's why it's so different in its operations from lock to lock. That's actually makes a lot more
took
sense.
so long to build.
That's crazy.
And now we just use it for basically fishing.
Do a little bit of talking of each of the ones. So braid is actually one of the oldest lines around. Like it has been one of the oldest fishing lines used for hundreds of years is braided line. Back in the day, they would use natural materials like cotton or linen. The issue with that is anytime it was used, it would have to be stretched out and dried, or else it would rot on the spool.
Oh, imagine how time consuming that'd be. After
Imagine
every day
how-
of fishing, you had to dry your line out.
Imagine how your car would smell with all those people who just throw their rod in the back window of that car.
Oh,
That would be disgusting. So, braid has been around for a long time. So, in more modern times, of course, we're not using cotton linen. They also had some like silk. The first non 100% natural braided line. They actually mixed certain chemicals and essentially coated silk braided line. Was the first non 100% natural braided line to be on the market. But nowadays they have, like, it's all synthetics. They have Dacron, Spectra, Microdyneema, are all the different composites essentially that go into a braided line that we have today. So for yourself, Jesse, what do you like? Do you use braid? What do you like to use, or what applications do you like to use braid in?
I think braid is one of those